I don't know how to help you. Is this an ego VOD? Hello everyone, this is part 2 of me giving you art advice based on the art that you submitted. If you're interested in the first part, you will find it linked in the description and also up here in the video. Essentially, I have an art Discord server, and if you haven't yet, definitely check it out. But there I have an art critique channel where you guys have been sending art. I have been giving feedback there, other people have been giving feedback there, but it's kind of restricted because it's just Discord. You can just do a few overpaints maybe, you can just text some stuff, but it's way easier to give detailed advice in such a video format as in this one today. And if you're interested in sending your stuff too, then please use the link in the description. I'm trying my best to give you some helpful tips here. But again, I think in the last video I had a 2 minutes disclaimer or something of the sort that I am not a professional. I am self-taught, and whatever advice I'm giving you here is just that, advice, based on my personal experience. I'm just giving you tips. You can implement them, you can like them, but you might also not like them. You don't have to do them. A lot of stuff will also come down to your personal art style, your preferences. I am a bit biased, but again, I'm just trying to give you some tips. I just want to help, believe me. Please. If you like this sort of format, let me know in the comments, leave a like. If you haven't already, of course, please subscribe to the channel. And without further ado, let's get started. The next submission is by Violet or Boramin. Thanks for submitting. Maybe anything specific I can help with. I feel lonely practicing drawing alone, so I would like to find someone to help me improve. Thank you for taking the time. Wish your journey full of joy. Thank you very much. Yeah, I get that. We as artists, we spend a lot of time alone, don't we? In our still chambers, in the dark, maybe if you're a night owl like me, drawing on our own. And honestly, it can be a lonely journey if you're self-taught and you're trying to teach yourself all of that. But I do find that there are probably a lot of wonderful artists out there that will support. Of course, you have all the YouTube videos, you have interactive live streams, maybe you will have TikToks everywhere on social media. No matter how toxic it can maybe get sometimes, I think that there are a lot of very helpful and nice people here in the art community, and I've always enjoyed being a part of the art community. And I also have my own Discord server now, so I do want to facilitate that. If you want to do art collabs, if you want to help each other out, we do have the art critique channel. So if you don't want to submit your art here for a video like that, I totally get that. You can also just join the Discord server, send it into the art critique channel, and then we will help you out there as much as we can via text and just drawing over a picture on the phone, you know. But yeah, I do understand how you're feeling, and I hope I can help you a bit today. And you can see here the socials. Make sure to check that out. I will also have it in the description. Let's have a look. I don't know how to help you. This is already so good. What am I supposed to help you with? Is this an ego VOD? Like, this is so good. Oh my god. Yeah, I'm gonna try my best, but I'm not even gonna start claiming that my art is much better or any better than this, to be honest. I'm still going to try my best. If I maybe have some tips or any advice I could give here, honestly. Maybe some stuff I already do like that I need to point out. What I do like about it is that you added some blur to the butterfly here in the front, for instance. That adds a lot of depth to your piece because you immediately recognize that this is the foreground, this is the midground, or like the layer that we want to focus on. From what I recognize in the piece, like he is the focus, but also like the roses, especially about him, is gonna be the focus. Then you have these bushes here. Some of these bushes are blurred, which is also good. You blurred the trees here. Honestly, I think I'd also recommend adding some blurs to the trees here, maybe. I mean, you don't have to, it's also fine to leave them this way. Probably I'd recommend this. And like, the further away they go, I think I'd try to add more atmospheric perspective to them. I think you already did it here. These are a bit washed out, basically. They are less saturated, they're a bit brighter. I would want to see more of that also here. Let me demonstrate what I mean. Like if I take this color of the sky and I just went with a hairbrush, I think I'd make them do this more, you know, like, so this is after, this is before, after, before. Maybe you don't have to do it as extreme as I did here. I just really wanted to demonstrate here. But what I did basically is these upper parts of the trees are the furthest away from the camera. If we, the viewer, are the camera, basically, these trees are moving away from us, basically. And the further away there are, there's gonna be more atmosphere between us as the viewer and that object, which means that it's gonna blend a bit more into the background. I think even in the Discord server, we have like a channel for art resources, and there I had one thread that's called Art Terms Explained or something like that, where I explained some terms. And I think there I also had the term atmospheric view or whatever it's called. I forgot the exact term, but you know what I mean. There I have the exact definition if you want to look it up. But basically, usually it takes more the color of the background there. You have less saturation, you have less detail there, less contrast. It's a bit brighter in a sense of usually the stuff that's more in the front and closer to the viewer is darker. There's more contrast, there's more detail. It's usually bigger, of course, depending on what it is. Vice versa, the stuff that we just did with the stuff further away, you know? I'm pretty sure you already have a general idea of what it is though, because I saw you do it in some places already, so I feel like I'm over-explaining here, but just for people watching this video who maybe don't know about that stuff, yeah, the thing I would recommend here is maybe doing more of that, because that also helps us get more focus on our character here. I don't think I'm gonna have to explain much in terms of lighting and stuff, probably, because you're already doing a very great job on that. The focus is probably this here, right? And you have the butterfly here, and you have this. So I already like this composition-wise, honestly. This is pretty nice composition. Yeah, I like this. This is some really good composition here. What you could also do, I guess, if you wanted to, was place him in a way that the flower is the center of the piece. Like, if you move this whole character a bit more this way, so that basically the flower would be in the center, and then, of course, you would have, like, to adjust the background and stuff like that. Maybe that would be an idea, but honestly, I do see the vision here with the composition, so that is also pretty good already. It seems to me you wanted to make these roses glow. I don't know if I'm wrong, but it seems that way to me, like that also the roses are the light source. Is that right? I hope so. Let me know in the comments. Maybe I'm just interpreting this wrong, but I feel like I'd make that clearer, honestly. I think you can go bolder here. The main tip I'm gonna tell everyone is go bold, go bold. In the end, it's all art style and what you like, so take it all with a grain of salt. You don't have to do what I'm telling you here, but I'm just gonna take a hard light layer and I'm gonna take a color like this maybe. Airbrush. I took some saturated red for like the whole thing and did a very bright area like this. But then like for the rest, I go closer to white and then I color the center in more like that. I'm gonna lower the opacity a little bit, maybe like this. There are better ways to do this, honestly, because you probably don't want all the details you drew here to get lost. This is just me trying to get my point across. I just did it very messy, but you would have, of course, to like erase it from parts like here, right? Because it is a light source and it wouldn't reach all the way here on the hand, right? Honestly, you could even, I remember I did that for one of my drawings, because like this whole area, the hand is blocking the light from going through. And what I like to do sometimes is do something like this. You see that? It looks a bit like it is also blocking the light from passing through this. It looks silly if I only do it in like one region, but if you do it for multiple areas, it can look actually pretty cool. This hand is casting a shadow. You see what I mean? I think I have to show you with the one piece where I did this before. I did something similar here. You see it? Like here, I have this flame that is basically the light source. There is shading in these hands here. I also like adding the Terminator sometimes. It's like this saturated area at the edges of a shadow. I really recommend that to give more life to your piece. I'm not sure, maybe you already did that. Let me look actually. Yes, I think you did a little. Maybe you did it by mistake because you did the lighting as an airbrush here. But like even more actively in areas like this where you have shading like that is where I would recommend adding the Terminator, by the way. So like going with a very saturated color. I like going with overlay, I think. And then you just add areas like this in these areas where there's the edge of the shadow. Adjust the opacity as you like. I'm not sure if you already did that, if it was maybe by mistake or if it was active, but that wasn't even the point I was getting at, but more like you see these hands and here, these lines here, this is where the light is getting blocked from getting further. And I think if it's implemented correctly, it can look really cool and also a bit aesthetic. Do you see it? Like here, here, here. I think that looks really cool. That was the point I was trying to make. I didn't draw it in well, to be honest, but maybe that gives you a general idea of what I was getting at. You could do the exact same thing with the butterflies, honestly. Of course, I would have to also erase the parts here. Honestly, it still looks a bit muddy. I would make it look even brighter, like this thing here. I didn't do it well here. I would want it even brighter. Maybe you could even have the line art of the roses in a lighter color so that they shine through a bit. Like if in areas like this, the lines get lost too much, you can use an alpha lock layer or a clipping mask layer on top of your line art and then just color it in a brighter color. I'm just gonna use white, I think. If these lines are getting lost too much, you know, maybe that could also just look cool stylistically if the line art for these roses was a light color. Maybe it looks like it's glowing more. That's just an idea. I feel like you could do brighter and bolder lighting in some areas, if I'm being honest. Again, we're saying that the roses are the light source, which you're already implementing well, so good job here. But maybe you could even make it brighter, you know, like emphasize the shapes more, I think. Like downside of the nose would be lit, maybe his upper lip would get some lighting. You can find really good reference on that, by the way, for heads, how the shading will be there if the light is coming from below. You might also have it like here a bit. You would blend it out more though. And also here the eyes you could do. If there wasn't the hair and there was like this area from the nose going to the forehead, you would also be lighting this, for instance. You could blend it out, stuff like that. But we do have the hair here, so no need for that in that case. But still, especially here, I think you can add more, basically. Also like this lower side of the lip. You could do it here, also here, here. I just think you could probably do some bolder lighting in some areas, especially here, honestly. And of course, especially like here in the hands. Even here on the butterfly, honestly. Maybe not too extreme, because we don't want to have the focus go away from him too much. I'd even make this butterfly darker, to be honest. A bit of light reflections would be there. Then we do have some blue background, and then maybe with some soft light and airbrush we could add some ambient occlusion, like this indirect light. Yeah, you could do stuff like that basically in the shadow areas, and this will give him a bit of a more three-dimensional shape maybe. Also here in the butterfly, honestly. And you can even go with a harsher brush, maybe even hard light this time if you like that, and then add some areas like this. Don't forget to blend out where necessary. That is also something that, for instance, the arcane art style has very strongly, this ambient occlusion, indirect light. I did it very extreme here. You just need to be careful to not put away the focus too much from like your glowing focus and stuff like that. This is just to emphasize the tip I'm trying to give you here. Of course, you'd implement it in your own way. Maybe the last thing that pops into my eye is honestly this here. So I'm not sure. From what I understand, his hair is binded together in the back, right? If it's in the back, you wouldn't be able to see it, honestly. Imagine his head is transparent right now. It would be like somewhere here, you know? You might maybe see it a little bit here, but not much more than that. But if your intention is that it's really like on the side a bit, then this is completely fine, then you're good to go. But if the intention was for it to be somewhere over here, then you would hardly see it, honestly, which annoys me sometimes because I want to make these sort of buns, but I have my character in a certain pose where you hardly see it. And then I'm like, I want to draw it. I know the feeling. If you are thinking about changing it up now, make sure to not go too big on this one, because usually they're not that voluminous. That is a trap I fall into a lot of times, because I'm like, oh, but the bun would be over here, or like the ponytail would be over here, but I want it to be visible, so I draw them way too big, which also looks stupid because it's not the actual size. But yeah, it depends on what you were going for with this one, right? Maybe one last tip, honestly, but it's something I often forget and I'm not good at myself. By the way, what I like about your piece is you do have a sort of pattern in the shirt. I like that. That's cool. It seems like a brush. Yeah. Like in areas where you have folds, the pattern would change up a bit. So like here, the pattern would be more like, I'm not drawing this correctly, but it would go a bit curved here over this fold. You know what I mean. By the way, in a lot of programs you have warp options. I'm showing you how you can do this in Photoshop, for instance. Maybe that's a way to adjust your pattern to the folds. But I do realize that's difficult and sometimes I just don't want to do that, so no worries, I get you. Maybe adding some more texture in some parts. You're probably using a very clean round brush. You could use painterly brushes, something with a bit of texture, you know, something like this. Then you could maybe place it on very low opacity or on a certain layer mode so that it still looks this way, so that you have the color you want, but that there is a bit more color variation or like texture variation on it. Maybe also just on the highlights or in the lighting areas. That is maybe an idea. It's something I need to do more myself, honestly, when it comes to adding texture to the pieces. You do have different texture for the pants, so that's also cool. Then you have like the glowing stuff here in blue for the butterfly. That's also cool. I think that's already it. There's probably more I could be saying here, but honestly, you already did a super great job. I tried to give some tips here, but this is already a very good piece, so I'm already nitpicking here. I did say to make more bold highlights here, right? The same goes vice versa for the shadows, of course. Like if I make more lighting here, I can also make more shading here. More shading here, more shading over the nose, more shading here. There is a fine line between making it creepy, so watch out for that, of course. There's like this area that gets a bit darker. You could also just do a bit of a airbrush in general. The upper part is just generally gonna be a bit less bright. Then of course do blend it out. We don't want it too extreme, right? It's also a very small nose, I noticed, but I think that's probably what you like or your art style, so I'm not gonna say anything about that, honestly. You could also add more light to the hair here, like the lower parts of the hair. If the light from the rose is supposed to be red though, then of course make more reddish, orange-ish highlights. I don't know why I chose yellow, to be honest. You probably want to go more red. If you feel extra fancy schmancy and you want to make it pop even more, I can recommend going with an airbrush and choosing a color dodge layer, and then you just choose a very bright color depending on your lighting, right? In this case, you'd go with something between yellow to red, whatever you prefer, and then I add it into the areas that are lit the most. You just airbrush over it. In the end, of course, you can adjust the opacity to your liking, and I think that just makes it pop a bit more. You can think of it as light bouncing off different surfaces. Alright guys, that's it for the video. I hope you liked it. If so, let me know with a like to this video and comment which tip helped you the most, or if you found anything surprising, or if you have any more thoughts on this. I hope that you found some of these tips helpful, especially the person who submitted it. If the person is watching this, of course, let me know in the comments how you enjoyed it. And as always, again the disclaimer that all of this is just advice. These are a few tips. A lot of it is bias and my personal opinion. You don't have to do any of this, but if this helped you in some form, that would make me absolutely happy. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more of this sort of video. If you also want to submit your art for art advice, you can use the link in the description, or you can even submit it for a roast session. If you want some art advice but you don't feel comfortable sending it for a video like this, no worries, I completely get that. I have a Discord server, which if you haven't already, you should definitely join. We are cool people there. There's scrumptious art, there are art collab possibilities, daily inspo, and much more. Especially there's also the art critique channel where you can send your stuff and get tips from me and the community. If you haven't already, please consider leaving a follow, and with that, that's the end of the video. See you next time. Bye!